All right, welcome in everyone. We're gonna let some of the other people get in. I think we've got one of our Facebook groups that we're waiting on here just real quick. But got a special show for you. I know everybody's a little fired up after this last Sunday, but we're still gonna have some fun talking football. You know, even win, lose, draw, whatever you want to call it, we can still talk some good Bronco football. So I'm excited for that. It looks like everybody is in. So I want to welcome everyone into Building the Broncos. And Nick is off celebrating 1 year of marriage. So if you have him on Twitter or Facebook, make sure you tell him happy anniversary. But his loss of being gone and going and hanging out with his wife, yeah, real big loss, is our gain. And Mr. Luke Patterson gets to join us here this evening. How are you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped to be building on the Broncos because we have plenty of building to do for the Denver Broncos. I mean, you said it, Carl. People are upset, people are mad, people are sad, people are trying to move on to 2021, and there's so much football that we have to get to, and I can't wait to be here, man. And I'm ready. I'm ready, dude. I'm ready. Let's get it.
All right. Well, before we get to all of our discussion, I want to let everyone know that tonight's live stream podcast is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado, and here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. Sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers. They're not a third-party provider of odds. Reduced juice, best prices, hassle-free bonuses means that the bonus money is yours after you bet it one time. Other sites sometimes take 5 to 30 times of betting. They also have 24/7 live customer support, always a real person in the U.S., and here's also the kicker at sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. You can get 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover 100% of the differences up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So head on over to sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. And make sure that you are following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Luke at Luke Patterson LP. And make sure wherever you're listening to this podcast, subscribe, like, share, do all of that for us if you possibly can. Click those little thumbs up for us. And also make sure you head on over to milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated, and see all the great content that's going on. There's just tons out there. So make sure you head on over there. And now let's get to the meat of the issue here today. And something we wanted to talk about because, well, Vic Fangio talked about it. Offense is not doing enough. And it's been tough to watch for a lot of years, probably since 2014 to really watch this offense. 2015 had a couple decent games here and there, but Peyton Manning being a little banged up kind of made, obviously the defense made up for it. But this year, everybody was kind of excited about this offense and what it could be, and injuries and shortened off season and everything else has made this a really, really difficult time. Cody Potter, I see you're wearing the same hat as me. That's really cool. Terry Randall wearing the Mile High Huddle shirt. Thank you guys for joining us. Sorry, I just get excited about getting into this topic because, you know, this is kind of what Building the Broncos is about. What does it take to get better? Mm-hmm. And but I want to make sure that we do recognize all the people out there. Greg, Charlie, Gary.
Yeah, see Pabby in the house. We got Duke Boynton. We got Paulie, Kenneth Booker, Isaiah. Dude, we have got a show, and we've got a lot of action going on in the live stream. I know Boana's all over that. Greg Smith, what's up, Greg? Good evening. Love that shirt. Let them hate. So I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I'm hating right now, and I'm hating on myself, Carl. And the reason I'm hating on myself is I picked the Broncos to win. Call me crazy. It's only the second game this season that I picked the Broncos to win. And I've been out there on Twitter bragging about how I was undefeated with my picks up until the last couple of weeks. But I fell for the banana in the tailpipe, man. I really did. And half of me feels that way and the other half doesn't. I felt like the Broncos defense played well enough to stay competitive and put this team in a position to win. However, the Broncos offense, whether it be the play calling, the quarterback, the running back, you cannot say it was the offensive line in this game. I will not accept that as an answer. But man, there's just so much I feel like that was left on the table and left on that cold, frosty field yesterday. And you know what? As frosty as it was, I can feel Broncos country. I could feel your blood boiling. I'm a little upset, and we got to hash this out, man. I've got sweaty hands as I'm talking to you right now just because I'm anxious, man. I'm so anxious, Carl, because I feel like the Broncos defense had KC on the ropes a little bit. They're saying, hey, we can defend you. We can run with you a little bit. And then the offense cannot get out of their own way. The biggest question that I am hearing in Broncos country right now, and it's something I talked to you about, Chad about, John about, I'm talking to everybody about. It seems like right now Broncos country's divided. It's a coaching problem with Vic Fangio. He doesn't pay enough attention to the offense. It's an offensive coordinator problem with Pat Shurmur. He's not calling the right plays for Drew Lock to be successful. And then I'm also hearing Drew Lock's not the guy. He's always banged up. His footwork is sloppy. He's got a heck of an arm, but his decision-making is suspect. So we got to get into that, man, because that's a lot to dive into. And I'm not tied down to just one opinion. I think more things can be true at the same time.
Right. I think that's the thing is when you get so black and white, it's got to be this one thing, can't be anything else. You're missing the nuance of football. Usually if there is a mistake that happens, there are multiple things that went wrong to cause that mistake. If there's something that goes right, there's multiple things that go right to make that happen. That's just kind of how it works in football because it is, as Vic Fangio said, there's 11 men on the field. And you need all 11 doing their job, and there's just times where they're not doing their job. Pat Shurmur can't help when Melvin Gordon decides to flip it 10 yards over the head of Drew Lock on a flea flicker.
No, but I'm going to push back and interrupt you there because he can help by not calling that play. Now, those are the same cutesy plays that I was calling for Rich Scangarello's job, and we'll get into that a little bit later, and I can't believe that I'm saying I miss Rich Scangarello right now, but you're exactly right. I mean, a flea flicker and Melvin Gordon, I mean, just chucking it over Drew's head.
Yeah. So you got those plays. You got Melvin Gordon fumbling another time. You got Drew Lock throwing the pick six. You got him making decisions of throwing into coverage that he never should have, not taking the check down sometimes, just almost trying to be too aggressive it's almost like he's trying to be the hero and realizing sometimes being the hero means you just do the smart thing. So that's not all on Shurmur, but you're right. There's play calls that Shurmur has not done well. You've seen Vic Fangio. I mean, the Titans game sticks out really well of not managing the clock well to give his offense a chance to go and win the game at the end of the game. So all three phases have blame in different ways. To the level, to the degree, I mean, we can discuss that and everyone can have their opinions on that. It's the main thing that I've said going into 2020 is we needed to figure out who is Drew Lock. Is he a guy that you can build around? Is he the guy that you can move forward with? Or is he the guy that you need to start looking to replace? And there's some real concerns that I have with his game.
I want to hear it, man. I want to hear it because I've got concerns about his game too. And I want to hear something, you're a good football mind. I know you watch film. I just asked if you got to chart plays. I haven't got to chart the plays yet either, but I want to see what you're seeing from Drew Lock outside of the mechanics, right? Everybody likes to talk about mechanics. And here's something that drives me absolutely nuts in the scouting community. When somebody says, this quarterback has a big arm. Well, they all have big arms, okay? I mean, it's just, that's not the defining factor as to what a starting quarterback can be. One thing that I want to get to and criticize Drew Lock a little bit is I'm not seeing any leadership on this offense. Now, I understand it's hard to lead when you are struggling yourself and trying to brace and hone in on what is supposed to be you being the franchise quarterback. I get that, but I wish I could see Drew Lock on the sideline a little bit more trying to rally the troops. I wish I could hear his team talk about the type of leader he is in the face of adversity, and to be a fly in the locker room after that game. And we can get into that a little bit later. But Carl, what are you seeing from Drew Lock right now that's making you doubt that he could be the Broncos franchise quarterback?
So one of the main ones, I mean, just play this really sticks out in my mind is the the sack that he took towards the end of the half that got him out of field goal range.
Yep.
That was, I mean, I'm watching the screen going, blitz is coming, recognize where the blitz is coming from, throw where the blitz is coming from. He turns to the left, looking to the left when the blitz is coming from the right. And doesn't even see the player coming. And so the Chiefs brought more guys than who could block. That's not on the blocking. That's on Drew Lock not recognizing that a blitz is coming.
Was that zero? Was that a zero blitz too?
I feel like it was. I mean, I'm going to have to go back and really watch it. But,
right.
I mean, there was a free man, and he had to know this free man is coming. I mean, you're talking about having big arms. Peyton Manning didn't have a big arm, but he had a big head. That's why he was MVP 2013.
He had
literally and figuratively, he had a big head because he understood. Like, he saw those things. You didn't try to blitz him because you knew that was not going to work. Those smart quarterbacks, blitzes just don't work. Patrick Mahomes, they talk about how blitzes just don't work against him. And Drew Lock didn't recognize it. I thought it was a very easy, recognizable thing that me, not being an NFL quarterback, could recognize it. He couldn't see it. And that happened on more occasions than just that play.
I agree with you. And we can all see it. And that's why I love Broncos country. And I'm eager to get to some of their takes here in a second. But, Broncos country, they're the most knowledgeable fan base in the NFL because there's not a single thing that I've said today on Twitter or even on this show yet that no one else hasn't said. I mean, the guy stares down one side of the field to his BFF, Albert O. And, I mean, defenses know that's happening. And they know Noah Fant's not 100%. They know when Drew Lock is going to be under center, it's going to be a handoff to Philip Lindsay because that's what he does. And they know that in the shotgun that Drew's got happy feet. Drew loves the drift. And if you're a defensive coordinator, you're telling your defensive ends, just stick there on the edge, and you're probably going to get against this cat. But Based Gase coming in here, and I love Based Gase with those Adam Gase crazy eyes. I'm always,
man.
Oh, dude, I'm always wondering. Anytime like New York Jets news comes up, I'm wondering if Gase is still there. So Based Gase with that $10 super, thank you so much. Lock stats after the Texans game starts 3-9, 57.6% completage rate, 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. The passer rating of 70.6. Lock to look okay under Skanks because the offense was dumbed down. Carl, Rich Scangarello, did he deserve to be fired? Because as I read Based Gase's question and his take, I'm starting to believe him a little bit here, man. Like, hey, was the Kool-Aid that bad between Vic Fangio and Rich Scangarello last year? Or could Drew Lock have benefited in another year of a West Coast offense?
There would have been benefits to it, especially they didn't know when they fired him that this was going to be the offseason that they had.
Sure.
If they got more time of actually working in the Shurmur offense, Shurmur learning what his weapons are, how good they are or bad they are, all those things would have helped, obviously. And so we have to try to that's things we have to try to factor in that this is a unique offseason. Drew Lock, this is the second offseason really that he hasn't had the entire training camp, all of that, all preseason to really work with the players. He's had 2 major injuries. He's had 2 different coordinators. His main weapon, obviously, and Cortland Sutton got hurt. So I'm trying to keep all those things in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, there's just things that he is missing that you need to see in the development of a quarterback from year 1 to year 2. Last year, he got away with a lot of things because of his athleticism, because of his arm, and just making some great plays. And his playmakers made some great plays. I mean, Noah Fant in that Houston game, catching that out pattern, taking it for 70, 80 yards, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Cortland Sutton making some great catches. All those kind of things play into it. But, I just see some regression in what he's doing. I think that part of that could be just the offense that he's in. But you need to see that in a quarterback. They got to be smart on the field. And he's not showing that.
And I agree with you. I completely agree with you because it seems like all the physical tools are there, right, for Drew Lock. With Tim Tebow, the physical tools were sort of there, just not at quarterback. Yeah. And it's one of those deals where I feel like, if you could put Brett Rippon's game prep and his ability to read and Drew Lock's strong arm, then you've got the perfect quarterback, right? Always trying to find that hybrid quarterback, but it's hard to find them. And I completely agree with you. When you're seeing the same mistakes over and over, Drew Lock gives a great press conference saying, I'm going to improve. Well, we need to see it, man, because I didn't see any improvements. I saw like you, man. He got worse against the Chiefs.
And I know a lot of people keep saying show patience. There are certain positions that you can show patience with. I'm glad the Broncos have shown patience with Garrett Bowles. He came in the league very raw, but quarterback is one of those positions you just can't wait. They waited on Paxton Lynch. They gave him 3 years to show that he could be the man. And it set the Broncos back 3 years.
Agreed. I completely agree with you. And has Charger fan came at you yet today? Because Charger fan came at me today with, oh yeah, Charger fan is always coming at a Broncos fan whenever they can, and just don't even start because you're just a trash organization. You might be having a decent year, but just back up, okay? So Charger fan will say, but Carl, Justin Herbert didn't have an offseason either, and he's the second coming of, name the best quarterback ever. And to that, I would say, different circumstances for every team, right? That's a very generalized statement. And you know what? Quarterbacks develop at different stages as well. I think that's something to be said. Peyton freaking Manning still holds the most, interceptions as a rookie record, and that has yet to be broken. So until Drew Lock does that, and I don't think he's going to do that, we should be good. But you brought up Paxton Lynch, and I saw a young man named Aaron Lynch had a super chat that I'd like to get in there. And Bawana, I think you could pull that up for me. Aaron Lynch, I know you can play football a lot better than Paxton, just based off that lovely smile. And I'm just assuming you're a tough, manly man because you can fish, and you probably don't cry on the sideline like Paxton Lynch either. Aaron Lynch went that $10 super. I never liked the Shurmur hire. I'm wrong about a lot, and I'm hoping this is much more of the same, but I see zero utilization of talent. How much should we actually pay for more offensive regression? Carl, did you like the Pat Shurmur hire when the news broke in January? I was in Tampa at the Shrine game. I'm very disappointed. I'm not going to be there this year. Shrine game came out and said it was canceled due to that funny little circumstance that's happening in this world right now. And the Broncos get a ton of talent from the Shrine game. So I was down there in Tampa when the news broke. I couldn't believe it. I thought Skangs would be staying, even though I was calling for his job. What was your initial reaction to the Pat Shurmur hire way back in January before all this craziness started?
I liked it. I liked it more when Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, and Jerry Jeudy were healthy, because he is a guy that loves to run the 3 wide set. Well, right now the Broncos just don't have 3 wide receivers that you really feel comfortable with being on the field. Maybe KJ Hamler getting healthy can help make that offense go a lot better. I know you have some statistics about the 3 wide set of what the Broncos have been doing. It's not pretty. And so that's been tough to watch. And you're right. He has struggled to understand the talent that he has on the field right now. Part of it, again, guys have been hurt. Noah Fant has missed games. Cortland Sutton's missed games. Jerry Jeudy's been banged up even a little bit. KJ Hamler's been in and out of the offense. So, and of course, Philip Lindsay just got back. Then Melvin Gordon had his issues. So that does play into it. When every week you're trying to make a game plan and another guy goes down. But at the same time, you just got to deal with it. And right now, he has not been dealing with it well.
Yeah, we got Charlie Beagle coming in here wanting to defend Drew a little bit. And I appreciate that, Charlie. Great friend of the show. I'm with Drew Lock. Get everybody healthy. Give the kids some time and coaching and some better play calling. Charlie, I can feel the Aaron Rodgers to your game with the RELAX, relax. And I like it because maybe that's what we need to do a little bit. In order for me to do that, I have to see minor improvement at least. I was excited for Pat Shurmur to come here because I'm thinking, okay, let's get Drew back in the shotgun. Maybe he'll be a little bit more comfortable in the pocket then. And it doesn't seem like that at all. He drifts whenever he can. The 3-step drops and the 5-step drops from under center are still really, really ugly. And not to quote VJ, that's ugly, right? But it's one of those things where I got to see some improvement. So for me, man, I liked it initially, but I'm souring on it very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's going to be. I mean, he and Drew Lock are tied to each other now, in the sense of he's got to show that he can help Drew Lock to grow and to do something, to maybe simplify some of the things that they're doing, maybe give some easier targets early in the game. That's something I'd love to see that they haven't really shown the last couple games. that, I mean, they've wanted to attack downfield. And I understand Drew Lock most of the time has a pretty decent deep ball. But right now, he's just not hitting it. He's not comfortable. Let him get some easy targets, get comfortable in the pocket. Because right now, like I said, he's wanting to drift out of that pocket, even when it's clean. I mean, he hits that back foot, and he's like, oh, I got to get out of here.
And I think I saw a stat today, and don't quote me on it, but it was Drew Lock was hovering around 20% on deep ball completions for the year. And that is just absolutely atrocious. And Jeff Legwald, really well-respected writer, and I love Jeff and listening to what he has to say. But he put out an article we were talking about before the show where he was saying, with Pat Shurmur primarily operating with these 3 wide receiver sets, it hasn't been good. 13 sacks for the Denver Broncos. They've thrown 10 interceptions. They've lost 3 fumbles. They've only scored 3 touchdowns when they have 3 wide receiver sets on the field. That was something that Vic Fangio was asked about also. So an interesting dynamic there as we look at Vic Fangio and the coach. But want to get back to the MHH community. Tom El Greco coming in. Please correct me if I'm not saying that right, Tom, with a $5 super chat. Noah Fant's interview earlier. His anger was indirectly towards Locke. So, of course, Tom is referencing Noah Fant's comments, and I'm not sure if you got to hear him, Carl, about some words that were exchanged in the locker room. Now, he wasn't dishing the dirt or who was saying what, just like a good player should do. But do you sense that there is a little bit of a divide in the locker room? Certainly, we saw some emotional outbursts from the defense, particularly Shelby Harris. I also saw some eye rolling from Drew Lock on that Melvin Gordon fumble and some of those other things. So what do you make of Noah Fant's comments talking about a defense that has the right to be angry right now with the offense?
I mean, I think they're just like the rest of us. A loss like that, I mean, it's embarrassing. It is really embarrassing. I haven't hardly wanted to be on Twitter. I haven't wanted to be on Facebook. I haven't wanted. I
noticed even today you were ghosting us. You were ghosting Chad and I today. I noticed.
Well, I had some other things going on here today, but it is. It's hard to really want to even talk about some of the things going on, and so I can only imagine for these guys who are invested, who this is their livelihood, to go out there and to be embarrassed that way. Yeah, there's going to be some frustrations that are going to boil over. I still remember. Even that 2015 season had some guys boil over. I can't remember. I think the coach Kubiak had asked the guys something after a loss, like, "Hey, would anybody like to talk?" And I can't remember who it was. But somebody tried to.
Was it Russell? It was Russell Okung starting left tackle. Yeah,
and the defense is like, "Sit your butt down." And
not even that. It was your boy Aqib Talib.
Yeah,
who got up there. It's like, no, we ain't having any of that from you.
Yeah, and you don't get to stand up after what you guys have done. So again, yes, I understand that there's going to be a lot of anger.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not okay with Shelby Harris and his little freak out, but I'm okay with seeing an emotion from somebody. You saw Bradley Chubb out there yelling and screaming too, and I'm not saying that's the most positive thing either. If you're going to have a offense go out there and just kind of piddle in their pants like they did, sometimes, I think the argument can be made they should get screamed at. Other times, I think, that's not going to let any grown man respond to that in a positive manner either. You're a parent, I'm a parent. Our children respond to us a little bit better when we're not yelling at them. And I think the same can be said. Now, there should be times where the team needs to be held accountable as well. So I'm happy to see a little bit of emotion from that defense. I just don't want this to become a defense versus offensive thing because let's be honest, the defense, they played good yesterday, but they're not that 2015 Super Bowl, defense either. So they don't have as many credentials as I think they might have. And as good as Kareem Jackson is and Justin Simmons, I think maybe he should have looked back on taking that deal last year with the way he's playing, kind of some ups and downs. But the question is definitely raised, will this divide the locker room? That's when I start looking to the leaders of this team. And I really don't know who they are, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Right. This is a defining moment for coaches, players, front office, everyone. Yes. Do they let this fuel them to better things ahead? Or do they, again, like you said, let this divide them? Because before this game, I felt like this was the most unified I'd seen this locker room since that 2015 team. Now, you go out there and have this kind of game, can they go from these emotional outbursts and use that to say, hey, you know what? Let's get together. Let's get this right. Or are they, again, like I said, are they going to let that just completely destroy them and the Broncos fall apart? Fangio loses the locker room, and kind of plays into JP's super chat here. Really appreciate that JP. To be honest, JP? I think Fangio got a bounce. Shurmur too, maybe. Too old school. Definitely always solid, but always bad. I don't think we can win with them calling plays. #old. Here's what I'll say. Fangio calls a great game for the defense. I'm really impressed with what he can do, and really, especially taking some no-name players and turning them into quality players. Like Ojemudia. Before the season started, him going in 3rd round, there's a lot of people going, that is a reach. Yet he's looked pretty darn decent.
And I was one of them, man. I was like, what are we doing here? And then, of course, you got Nick Kendall up in there just going through the moon, right? Another Iowa guy.
But if he's even being honest, he would say that was a bit of a reach. He said the guy has talent, but he's been inconsistent at times in college and has only really shown it for 1 year. So he's taken players like that. I mean, even last year with some of the cornerbacks that were brought in, Bosby started looking good before he got hurt. Harris.
And speaking of Bosby, real quick, let me interrupt. What's going on with Devontae Bosby? Did you see his news?
He's going down today. Going down to Arizona.
And CC all over it. The Bosby release will bite us in the tail. We're only one injury away in the cornerback room from seeing Devontae Harris start. Someone that you just were starting to talk about. Callahan and Bouye aren't known to be injury-free guys. Now, while Bryce Callahan and A.J. Bouye certainly have reputations of injury, they look fine based off of what I saw. Talk to me a little bit about, what you're seeing from Harris with Devontae Harris possibly getting some more time and coming up in this secondary.
He had a couple good games last year. He
towards the end of the year too, right?
Yeah, towards the end of the year when he got some playing time. Mm-hmm. He's aggressive. He's a strong tackler. Now he can get a little bit of choppy feet going and not always able to turn when he needs to. But overall, for a 4th cornerback, he's about what you want. I agree. Bosby being cut, a little bit of a surprise because he was having a decent season when he was asked to play out there. But at the same time, he struggles with tackling. He sometimes is way too aggressive for a Fangio defense that is supposed to be disciplined and making sure that they don't give up the big play. Bosby gave up some big plays. Yeah, and he's not a special teams guy. That's why Bosby they were willing to cut him instead of Harris. They like Harris as that special teams guy that could come in and give them some reps if they need to.
Special teams. Where do I start with special teams? I heard a stat today on a live air radio station that said the Denver Broncos special teams unit has not been in the top 10 since 2001. It feels, go all the way back to 2001, man. That's Mike Shanahan days. Yeah. And the special teams unit is absolute junk. Let's just call it what it is. I would say right. Yeah, other than, he's not junk, but he did miss a PAT. I don't know what the deal with that was. Yeah, sometimes it could be the hold, the snap, the ball might be a little wet. Who knows? We got Rich coming in here, fire the coach, Tom McMahon. We've been doing that, right? We've been firing special teams coach and Brock Olivo, and I know he gave the greatest sound bites ever, and 32 Janos and all that stuff. And, even Tom McMahon and he gives great interviews to it. It's so bizarre to say that I look forward to Friday special teams press conferences because they give some good sound bites. But Carl, this is what happens when you miss in the draft. Your special teams is junk. And half the time I feel like guys are just, half-tailing it out there. A lot of would-be arm tackles. And, I do feel bad for Brandon McManus watching Pringle take that back yesterday because that guy was hauling. And you could tell Brandon was trying to haul the mail and just keep up with him. And it was a little sad, man, because it's just like, what are we doing here? So when you've got an offense that seems to get in its own way, a special teams unit that is just grossly incompetent, and a defense that is starting to find their groove, it's it's tipsy-turvy, man. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel foolish, Carl, for picking this team to win. I really thought they could because I saw the Chiefs struggle in the cold weather in Buffalo, thought it would be the same thing, and, they didn't look great either. So,
no, really, if you look at especially through the first three quarters, the Broncos were the ones costing themselves the game, not the Chiefs. The Chiefs really on offense had hardly done anything. Couple of decent plays, got the one touchdown. It wasn't until the fourth quarter that the game became just this runaway. But giving up a pick six, giving back a kick return for a touchdown, and then the three turnovers. Again,
unacceptable.
Yeah, it is. If you're going to play with the top teams, those are the things you have to clean up. You can't beat yourself. I've been saying this for a long time that part of what makes Bill Belichick teams so great throughout all the years, they don't beat themselves on a Sunday. They just wait for you to make the mistakes. That's all they do. And you get in your head after a while, like even if you have a lead, you're like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. And they try to do too much, and it just plays right into what the Patriots want to do. They play the mind game. And the Chiefs have been playing the mind game against the Broncos for a long time here. And so all of a sudden you got these big mistakes coming in. You got Drew Lock trying to do too much on offense. You got, again, special teams just flying down the field more than they ever should. And it's frustrating to watch. And really the Broncos should have been in that game. Maybe don't win it, but at least make it an interesting game.
I agree. And Aaron Lynch coming in here, and Cody, I see it. We'll get to you in just a sec, pal. I'm not a lock apologist, but he doesn't have a full rookie year under his belt in terms of games and has played for two different offensive coordinators. He might not be the answer, but he hasn't really been set up to win. Aaron, I appreciate that and I respect that, but I got to give you a little bit of pushback because all I heard, Houston last year, right? That was the Drew Lock coming out party, the Houston Texans. Yeah. Well, yeah, he played well. He played very well, but I went back and watched the tape last week of that Houston game, and there were a couple of interceptions that Drew should have thrown also that just didn't quite connect. So it's tough right now to try to give Drew Lock a grade. I think is immature. He's got 10? We've got 10 more games that we're looking at, and you said it earlier in the show here on Building the Broncos. And get at us on Twitter, guys, at Carl Dumler MHH, at Luke Patterson LP, Mile High Huddle, at Mile High Huddle on Twitter, milehighhuddle.com. It's one of those things where we have to figure out what we've got in Drew Lock. John Elway has to figure out what he's got in Drew Lock. And Pat Shurmur's not doing him any favors. I mean, when you look at this offense is ranked 28th in the NFL. It's one of 5 teams that scored 19 points or less. And those 5 teams both include, the New York Jets, the New York Giants. I think Washington's in there somewhere, and New England, believe it or not, who had a really, really bad outing. So when you're there and you're -8 in the turnover differential, only second to Dallas, who's -13, this is a bad, bad football team. And just because the defense is loaded up on money doesn't mean I'm going to say it's all the offense's fault. But to be honest with you, Carl, I put a lot of this on Vic Fangio. At what point is Vic Fangio going to step away from his baby, the defense, and start looking at this as a whole? He likes to talk about complementary football. Well, he doesn't pay any damn attention to the offense. Let's just be honest. Out there in practice, training camp, right? Like, coach is grouchy when the offense has a great day, and then the defense, when the defense has a bad day, it was the worst day ever. So I'm getting a little irritated when I hear coach talk, a little bit about he didn't dog Drew Lock necessarily, but he didn't mama cat him either. So we got to get to some of these supers, man. And I really appreciate you guys rocking with us on Building the Broncos, man. I'm pumped to be here with Carl. So Cody Potter coming in here. I can go on and on about Sunday, but this team is still competitive in my eyes. This game was a fluke, in my opinion. This needs to be the wake-up call in order to move forward. 9-7, 10-6, still on the table. You best believe it. Cody, I like the optimism. I just wish this was the NFC East, because then I would be right there with you, man.
6 wins wins that division.
Yeah, as it sits right now, Cody and Carl and John, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Broncos would go 9th in the 2021 NFL draft. That means with just, 2 wins under their belt, there are 8 other teams that are worse than them right now. And that's a scary thought as we start to look towards the draft. I don't get into any of my draft stuff till December just because we have so much going on and so much drama always happening, especially before the trade deadline. But What do you make of what Cody Potter has to say and with his take talking about, was this a little bit of a fluke? Was it just a collapse? I mean, the Broncos, what I'm taking away from Cody is Cody saying, hey, man, the Broncos, they were right there for a little bit. It's not like Mahomes and Tyreek Hill were just throwing go routes like they used to do over the Broncos. Travis Kelce, Carl, was limited. I loved what they did with Travis Kelce. It gives me goosebumps saying that right now, and I can't believe I'm saying, they limited Travis Kelce and still got blown out.
But by the way, did you see who you were playing this week in fantasy football?
Yeah. Is that where we're gonna go? Is that where we're gonna go? Is that where
Hey,
Carl?
I will say you are second. I'm in first. So we're the top two guys in the Mile High Huddle fantasy football right now. And we faced off this last week. I know, and it is Fear the Beard. And I think you have Travis Kelce, if I remember right.
I have Travis Kelce, and
so it helped out that he was limited for me.
Yeah, and I've got Pat Mahomes in some other leagues, and just so you guys know, I'm always rooting against them. I want the Broncos to win.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't care. Go to sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. Look at some of these odds, and Kliss was throwing out, I think, the underdog already for 2 weeks from now. You already looking past the Chargers, and I'm not sure what the spread on that Charger game is, but they were hanging with them for a little bit, Carl. I mean, is this? Could you see another scenario where the Broncos could beat Kansas City in Arrowhead?
Not in Arrowhead. Well, and it's tough because right now they might not have a crowd.
Sure.
That crowd is a huge part of that atmosphere.
Yeah.
So if there is no crowd, then I think the Broncos can stand a chance if they can clean up these stupid mistakes. If the coaches can figure out what kind of playmakers they have and how to use them. There's a lot of things they got to figure out. And unfortunately, that's the way it is this season. You got to learn on the go. You didn't have an off season or preseason to kind of work out some of these little issues to get ready for the season. And so at this point, you just got to get going. I still think the Broncos stand a decent chance. The AFC is tough, though. That's part of the problem. I mean, you got the AFC North that has Baltimore and the Steelers looking great. Yeah, even Cleveland doesn't look terrible. They're kind of up and down.
Do they? They are terrible. Like, did you see that? There's a good meme going on right now for you guys that love memes of the Baker Mayfield cycle, and you guys got to go see it. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. You're right. The AFC's loaded. Yeah, you got the AFC South, who Colts are looking okay. Tennessee's looking great. Even the AFC West, the Raiders are going to be a problem. Chargers have been in almost every single game they played. They just haven't found a way to win them at the end. Hopefully they don't figure that out this week. But so it's going to be a tough road for the Broncos, unfortunately. And I'm not sure even going 9-7 if that gets you into the playoffs this year. Well, we'll see. I hope it does. And if they go 9-7, then probably a good chance Drew Lock is having a good season to close out. It means the coaches have figured out a few things, that they're winning some of these tough games. And so then everybody's back, and it's looking like, okay, let's move into 2021 and see what we can do. Get Cortland Sutton back and get this offense really cooking. But it's again, the maturity of the team is going to really show and how they respond to this last Sunday. Vic coming in real quick. There are divisions you can be patient in, and the AFC West isn't one of them. And Vic, that's a perfect synopsis to what Carl just said. And JT coming in here with a $4.99 super chat. Appreciate you so much, JT. Smile in that picture, man. The Broncos are going to win another game. We got another one coming. We're not the Jets. We're not the Giants. It's all good, brother. He's saying no crossing routes utilizing Jeudy or Fant skill set. It's run pass, deep punt. It's way too predictable to fit the scheme to 3, not the other way around. So what JT's getting at is if you're an opposing defense, how simple is your game plan to go after the Denver Broncos? Their rushing attack is just so predictable. I mean, I don't even want to get into that. But the passing attack, I mean, you're going to get 3 wide receivers out there. Deshaun Hamilton, say what you want about him. I mean, I don't consider him a big threat, so you don't have to worry about cornerbacks traveling with him if he's in the slot. Yeah, KJ Hamler's back, and we're hoping to see better things from him. He seemed to be running well. Noah Fant, obviously very, very dangerous. But Albert Okwuegbunam, JT, I want to talk about Albert Okwuegbunam because I think JT's right with the no crossing routes utilizing Jeudy. I mean, we saw a crossing route that was picked off. yesterday by Drew Lock, right? And he's saying, man, I'm better than that. I know I can't be throwing that and stuff like that. And we get it. But for Jerry Jeudy, man, I have yet to see that breakout moment. And yeah, he caught an excellent pass that should have been an interception against the New York Jets with Brett Rippon. I get it. We have not seen that breakout game from Jerry Jeudy. People are wanting to see Jerry Jeudy break out. They're wanting to see Albert O break out. Is Pat Shurmur utilizing Jerry Jeudy the right way right now, let alone Noah Fant?
No, he's not. So I know.
No. That's like, you sound like John Elway when he was asked, if he would consider retaining any of the previous offensive coaching staff for Gary Kubiak, and he's just going, no.
So JT's right. Jeudy is not running enough crossing routes to take advantage of his route running ability. You're seeing him run a lot of deep routes. And while he can win those routes because he has speed, he's got that quickness, he's a very advanced player. That's just not his top skill set. That's not the best way to utilize him. So JT is exactly right. Fant is the same way. He's got that quick step for a tight end. Get him with the ball in his hands on a 5-yard route and let him go to work. Last year, watch his touchdowns, his big plays. They were these quick passes that he just made a couple guys miss and took them for a big play. And JJ's better suited for the slot. This was my one problem of them taking Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Yes. Both of them, their best game is out of the slot. This is where part of me, if they knew that KJ Hamler was going to be there in the second, I think they might have taken CeeDee Lamb in the first, because CeeDee is better on the outside. Not that Jerry Jeudy can't do it. Again, they just got to figure out some better ways to get the ball in his hands. Give him a 7 to 8 catch game. Don't just get him 1 to 2 catches a game and expect him to be okay. Part of what he did so well with Alabama was, he was just getting the ball left and right. And when he can get into a rhythm, man, he is unstoppable. But I think part of his drops problem is he's going, okay, I've only got 1 to 2 plays a game. I got to do a lot with those plays. And he's just not, as Shurmur watching me film on Jeudy, doesn't look like he has.
I love it.
Yeah, again, this is where he's got to learn better. What are his weapons? How does he have to build his offense around them?
Mark Schlereth said something today, and it's just resonated with me throughout the whole day. He said that Pat Shurmur seems to be calling offenses like he's auditioning for a head coaching job. He wants to go deep. He wants to make big splashes, and it's just not happening. It's the complete opposite. You're turning the ball over. It's not right. Things aren't clicking and adjustments aren't being made. Drew Lock isn't cleaning up his footwork because Pat Shurmur isn't cleaning up the play calling. It's not two guys that aren't just not wanting to win. It's just they're so stubborn in their ways. And when you're stubborn in your ways and change isn't being made, you're going to lose football games, especially against the world championship team, the Kansas City Chiefs. And while I can't stand the Chargers, they're definitely a threat. And the biggest storyline, it's going to be Justin Herbert versus Drew Lock. And, part of me does wonder, because Drew Lock is human, was the moment a little too big for him yesterday? He's playing against his old team. You got to know he wishes he was the quarterback of that team, right? That would be like one of our guys growing up here and going to the Raiders and wanting to beat the Broncos so bad and bring that championship back. So I do wonder about that. But as we start to keep rolling with you guys on building the Broncos, Paul's coming in here with a $20 super. Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate you tuning in. Paul, why roll out so much when your quarterback isn't seeing the field very well? Get young guys involved early. They're hanging their heads. I love Locke, but we need his leadership. I agree with you, Luke. And it's tough to lead, Carl, when you're not doing the right thing. But what is this swag that we've been talking about, Drew Lock? Swag's fun when you're winning, but as I know, I'm preparing to chart the film, and you are too. I'm going to watch that first Drew Lock touchdown where he ran into the end zone and he's pointing at Chiefs players. So you kind of look like a little bit of a buster, bro, when you're doing those things so early and you can't back it up. And what I want to see, he says the right things in the press conferences. I love it. I get it. Whatever. He's the best thing ever. But we got to see it on the field.
Yeah.
And I want to see him challenge his teammates. I want to see him go over to the offensive line, go over to the defense. Hey, man, I got you. Just like Pat Mahomes does. Different personalities and stuff like that. I get it. But when you look at the franchise quarterbacks, they have command over the entire team. I'm not saying the defense needs to bow down to Drew Lock. I'm saying that Drew Lock, it would be nice to see him eat a little bit of a humble pie and show some aggression. I mean, good gosh, get angry here. You got to get angry. You got to get mean, like Patches O'Houlihan, right? Dodgeball. Right. So, yeah, man, it's frustrating all the way around.
Right. I don't mind the rollout plays, honestly, because it does cut the field in half for him on views. Part of it is, though, he's not reading the levels well.
Right.
And
he's already staring at that one side of the field anyway. And when you're already staring on that one side of the field, you're exactly right. He's looking, it almost feels like to me, and I'm curious to see what you have to say. It feels like he's looking for the deep pass as his check down.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he locks in on it, and he won't wait until he's about to step out of bounds. It's about the only time he'll switch to the underneath route. And there's times, man, that underneath route, it's like the guy's got 15 yards of running space in front of him. Hit it early. He holds on to it for so long, hoping that long play can open up. Sometimes, dude, just take the underneath, be okay with it. I want to see also where they get some of those shorter routes from the pocket. So he gets comfortable in the pocket. They're wanting to throw deep so early in the game. He gets those happy feet. He wants to get out of the pocket as quick as possible because that's where he's comfortable. And unfortunately, in the NFL, you got to learn to play from a pocket. You do. It's just where it is in the NFL. And, it's great that he can escape the pocket, but don't make that your game. That can't. And right now, that is his game, and it's just not working.
Well, and something that I go back to when he was asked, what's it like to be a gunslinger? Well, it's kind of like being a three-point shooter. You miss the first couple of times and you hit the third one. You feel good. You're going to keep shooting. Well, kid, you've been shooting and you've been missing and you've been giving up some turnovers. So it's time to start hitting. And speaking of hitting, hit those like buttons up. I see my man Zach coming in here. What's up, Zach? Everybody get over to the Huddle Up store. Maybe, John, we can put that plug up real quick after I read this and get your swag on. ZW Designs has a dope shirt that I'm still trying to get a hold of in my size. Coming in with the $9.99 Super. Thank you so much, Zach. Broncos country, don't put it all on Drew. He has to learn a new scheme. The offense is young, and there was no preseason to help gel the team. Shurmur just needs to call better plays. Zach, I hear you, man. I hear you because I'm a Drew Lock guy. I've liked Drew Lock since Mizzou, but I'm starting to get really nervous because I'm not seeing the improvements that I thought I would see. We talked about the rollouts a little bit. I wish I could see more rollouts with Rich Gangarello, but Zach brings up a really, really good point. Carl, do you feel like people are panicking in Broncos country way too much? I mean, let's be honest. This was a game that people knew the Chiefs were going to beat the Broncos in, right? Everybody except for me because I'm an idiot. But, everybody knew the Chiefs were going to beat the Broncos. 2 weeks ago, they're riding high off 2 weeks over the Jets, over the Pats, and get over to the MHH Superstar designed Let Them Hate t-shirt. Order up from Huddle Up Pod. That's Zach's t-shirt. Thank you so much, John, for pulling that up. Absolutely love it. Get all our swag. Carl's got a Building the Broncos hat that I know he's very, very proud of. Nick does as well. The Dove Valley Deep Divers, Huddle Up, and the MHI Insiders. So get over there to the Huddle Up store and order your swag. So yeah, man, would you say that there's an overreaction? Because I think I hear what Zach's saying. He's saying, dude, calm down a little bit. Just the first sign of trouble doesn't mean we need to just start burning down the building and starting over. Where do you land on that, Carl?
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to do an entire season. I mean, we can talk about it now in the sense of he has not shown enough to be the guy right now. And he's got 10 games to do it. That's a lifetime in the NFL. He can turn it around. I know he can. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. You already said it. A lot of these guys have big arms. He's got the opportunity. He's got talent around him. I know Cortland Sutton being down is kind of stinks, but he's still got Lindsay. He's got Tim Patrick, who's emerged out of nowhere. Of course, Jeudy, Noah Fant. He's got all these guys. So he's still got talent around him. He can still make something out of this season. He can still go out there and prove that he's the guy. I'm just not going to say he's the guy right now. There's some people out there like, just they will defend him until they die. I'm not that guy.
You're honest. You're an
I'm honest where
You're an
he's at.
analyst, and
I
that's what.
think he has potential, but I'm not going to sit there and say that he's going to live up to that potential.
Mike List was asked today, point blank on the radio, will Pat Shurmur and Vic Fangio return in 2021? And he said, quote, yes, end quote. So say what you want about Cliff, guys. I've met Mike. Mike's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He is one of the best Broncos insiders. So don't just blow that off. If you guys think that just changing coaches is going to solve anything, the first question I have for you is, who are you bringing in? Because I believe that anytime you call for another man's job, you better have a solution, and it better be a rational one. And don't just tell me it's the ownership and Peyton Manning's going to come in here and buy the team and everything's going to be sunshine and roses, because that's not the case. You know, it's something Nick and I talked about last Saturday, and I know I can say the same for you. You know, we're not Broncos haters because we're saying Drew Lock played like garbage. That's just honest. We're both Drew Lock fans, man. I want to see Drew. You said it, Carl. You took the words right from my mouth. The kid can do it. We know he can do it. He's shown he can do it. Will he do it going forward? And that's where Roberto Garcia is coming in here with the next 4 games will tell us whether or not Drew Lock's the guy. We are looking at the Chargers, the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Dolphins. Now, Carl, if you were to show me the Chargers, Falcons, Raiders, and Dolphins, I'd say don't worry about the Dolphins. That's an easy win. You know, Falcons, they tend to screw things up a lot. Well, so do the Denver Broncos. So, you know, in our last little segment here, man, what are you looking forward to seeing against, you know, the Chargers, another AFC West divisional matchup? This matchup, obviously, I think more favorable than the Kansas City Chiefs matchup for obvious reasons. Justin Herbert, he's riding a high wave, but every high wave crashes on the rocks eventually. Will this be that week, Carl?
Well, we'll see. I mean, obviously, like you said, you get more film on a guy, what he likes to do, what he doesn't like to do. I mean, heck, Drew Lock had it a little bit where he started out pretty darn strong.
Yep.
And then it's kind of tailed off where teams have figured out to take away the deep ball and force him to just dink and dunk down the field. He doesn't like to do it. And so that's what I want to see from Drew Lock in this one, is when they take away the long ball, can he beat you with just knowing coverage, knowing when a team's sending a blitz, where to throw to the open man, and just taking what they give you. I mean, he can go out there and have an amazing game if he just takes what a defense gives him. Guys are open. He's just missing them.
Yeah, and that's just something I want to echo too. And Juan, if you could throw that quick super up there from Cody. Thanks, brother. Cody Potter, we should bring in Tebow as a hype man. Haha. Cody, don't even joke with me, man. I'm already upset enough. I don't need my blood pressure raised even more than it needs to be. But Cody's right. He's saying get creative, Pat. I mean, do something. I mean, like, it's just the flea flicker. When you want to get creative and you call the flea flicker, that's not creativeness, that's not missed opportunity, that's just incompetence. Pat Shurmur knows better than that. I respect Pat Shurmur as an offensive play caller, but he's not doing his job well, and neither is Drew Lock, and neither are a lot of Denver Broncos. But I'm not going to put this on the front 5. Bama X, who has been super involved. I mean, this guy's got to be the Jerry Jeudy guy, right? If talking about Bama X, $10 super, appreciate you so much. Right now, what I've been seeing out of Lock is a 2016-17 Alabama Jalen Hurts. Locks on to one wide receiver without going through any of his progressions. Then he breaks the pocket and scrambles right. That consequently throws it away or gets a sack and takes a shot down the field. Bama X, you're seeing what we're all seeing right now. And Carl laid it out there. When he's rolling right and he's hugging that perimeter, sometimes he wants to try to squeeze it in real quick. And it's usually a tight end. God forbid it's a running back in the flat. And if it's a running back in the flat, it's not Philip Lindsay, because he won't throw Philip Lindsay the ball. But that's something for another time. Carl, what do you make of what Bama X is saying, man? You gotta somehow try to dial things up.
You're right. I mean, as soon as his number one wide receiver is covered, he's looking to escape that pocket. His timer is going off too fast. This offensive line has looked pretty darn decent, especially since Dotson got in there.
Yes, dude, Dotson. Who would have thought?
Yeah, he's got the number one left tackle in football according to PFF, and Garrett Bowles. I mean,
I'm not saying anything.
Well, okay. A year ago, if we would have said Garrett Bowles is going to be the number one tackle, everybody would have laughed and said, we are never listening to this podcast again. But that's what he's got. His interior guys are starting to look better. they're still making a few mistakes here and there, but he's got a good offensive line in front of him, and he's just not trusting him. He's not trusting his eyes. He looks like he's just really lost out there right now. And I mean, he can get it back. And hopefully this week is a great week of getting in the film room with Pat Shurmur, with Brett Rippon.
Yep.
I mean, that's a guy, lean on him, lean on his intelligence.
You bet.
And watch what they're doing and say, okay, hey, look for this.
And did you see how active Brett Rippon looked in that game? It seemed like whenever Drew was coming to the sideline, Brett was actually approaching him. Like, hey, man, well, it almost felt like at times Brett was coaching up Drew a little bit. And, I was screaming at my TV the whole game. I got a little premature. I'm saying, when is Mike Shula going to get to play call some games? And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm just like you guys, man. This is an emotional game. And I was very, very upset to see the 10th victory over the Broncos going in since 2015, man. I can't get past it. And Mr. Boggins, what's up, Mr. Boggins? Happy to see you join the show here real late. Better late than never. Locke needs to get out of his head, i.e. the leg brace that he doesn't need. Get the balls to your weapon and let him eat. Carl, Mr. Boggins brought in the leg brace. How can we forget that quarterback slide, Carl? I mean, that quarterback slide. I told Nick, I listened to Chad Brown last week tell a story about how Jim Zorn used to work with his backup quarterbacks in Seattle with slip and slides. He literally had Matt Hasselbeck and Trent Dilfer, two of the world's most athletic quarterbacks, doing slip and slides to learn how to fall. And I think all of Broncos country, we were holding our breaths, right? As soon as Drew Lock's brace was the turf monster and got him.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Peyton Manning was the king of the self-sack.
Oh, it was sad to see, but it kept him safe, right?
Right. Well, and that's it. As a quarterback, you got to know you can't miss games. Yep. You have to sometimes learn just to live for another play. And you can't be the hero every single time. Even Patrick Mahomes struggles to learn this. I mean, he had his dislocated knee against the Broncos, and he's still struggling. He's still taking a lot of hits that he shouldn't. Lamar Jackson takes hits he shouldn't take. So a lot of these guys, I do worry about their long-term health moving forward. Drew Lock, I worry about his long-term health. 2 injuries to your throwing arm, not good. Having a leg brace on, not good. He's got to learn he has to stay healthy. That's the number one thing is your availability. If you can't be available, it doesn't matter how much talent you have in the NFL.
Yeah, I think Brock Osweiler, right? He had that quote of, the best trade is availability or something like that. But here we are. We're still trying to figure out the quarterback position. So AJ Zillinger coming in. I hope I pronounced that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Get at me at Luke Patterson LP, because we respect you guys and appreciate you guys so much. And y'all deserve to have your names read the correct way. So please let me know. Can we agree Philip Lindsay is a running back one? He's so quick. You're dang right he's so quick, and he's elusive, and he's awesome, and he's the best thing ever. I've been very critical of Philip Lindsay in the past, and I was screaming at the TV anytime they pulled him out of the game for Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay, I can't figure it out, Carl, and I know we're on our way out, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it, and I don't care if it angers some people or not. I don't think the Broncos like Philip Lindsay. I don't think Pat Shurmur likes Philip Lindsay. Heck, I don't know if Vic Fangio likes Philip Lindsay. They have no problem giving him the ball on a handoff, but they just can never seem to get him the ball in open space. God forbid we call a halfback screen to Philip Lindsay instead of Melvin Gordon. The underutilization, I wrote about it last week, and I know it's an old article and everything, but I can't figure it out, man. You got a dynamic player. He's a running back one. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, he's easily the top running back. Your number one job as a running back is protect the football. Melvin Gordon has been maybe the worst in football at protecting the football. So Philip Lindsay, for being a small guy, he knows how to cover it up. He is impressive.
Did you see that? Both arms, too.
Yes,
those guys are punching at it. They're peanutting at that ball, and Phil knew it, man. And he's not scared of it. He took it on. He embraced it. I loved it.
And I want to see him get more involved in the pass game. I know in the past he has not been the most trustworthy guy of catching the football, but I have seen improvement. Even, that first game against the Titans, he had a great catch in the red zone. And I want to see more of that. I think he should be given more opportunities.
Exactly.
Melvin Gordon,
talk about trust. Talk about a player that can't be trusted.
Right. So I don't know. I know money talks, and you just paid Melvin Gordon a ton of money. So you feel like you got to take advantage of that investment. But right now, yeah, he has been nothing but a distraction for the team, nothing but a guy that has cost them points.
Yep.
He's hurt the team more than he's helped. That's for sure.
And I think Mr. Boggins would agree with you, just to kind of wrap up our night. And I love this super because it's perfect. Lindsay could be an all-around back like Melvin if Shurmur actually schemed Lindsay into passing plays. And as we wrap things up, I said it all off season. Philip Lindsay's not very good catching, right? Philip Lindsay can't catch. Well, you're damn right he can't catch when he doesn't get the ball thrown his way. All right. It's just unfair. I don't get what the beef is. Cody coming in with a last-minute super chat, $5. Thank you so much for your involvement tonight, Cody. You've been absolutely crushing it, along with Terry, Glenn, Duke, everybody, Kenneth Booker. How do you like the future of the pass rush with Malik Reed, Bradley Chubb? You got Jones in there, Harris up in the mix. And what does it mean for Vaughn's future? Does the D look a little bit different? I mean, are the emergence of Malik Reed and Bradley Chubb finally starting to turn it on? How's that going to affect Vaughn?
Well, I mean, it does affect him. If Malik Reed keeps going the direction that he's going, he's been up and down. But let me just say that Malik Reed has been he's not done great in the run game. There's been some plays where he's really gotten pushed around.
Yep.
And so keep that in mind. Von Miller doesn't get pushed around quite like Malik Reed does.
No,
so
he doesn't.
He's
not in the running game when he's light. It seems like every year when he's heavy, he gets hurt. But then when he's light, he kind of can get caught up a little. But he's no Von Miller. I see what you're saying.
Right. I mean, I love. I've said it on here. Draymond Jones, one of my favorite young players on the Broncos. Shelby Harris has worked himself into a guy that the Broncos should be looking to pay. And so I like the group. I really do. But I really like the group if Vaughn is healthy. So, I mean, Malik Reed's not going to cost a whole lot of money. Von Miller, let him keep going on his contract. Once his contract is up, pay Bradley Chubb. I still want to see them go after somebody more to add to the group. You can never have enough pass rushers. Let me just say that.
Kenneth Booker coming in here. I completely agree. Never enough pass rushers. Denver D is going to bring Herbert back down to earth.
I hope so.
I love that so much. And thoughts and prayers to Mike Purcell, man. Homegrown native. Man, hope you feel better, big man. And Sylvester Williams back up in the mix for the Denver Broncos on the defensive line, activated. And please go read about that on milehighhuddle.com. Chad Jensen has you guys up to date with a great piece on the new defensive line that we're constantly working around. So Bama X coming in here with another $10 super chat, absolutely crushing it. I can't believe people actually noticed Carl. Jeudy has been hang on, I'm messing this up. I can't believe people actually noticed Carl. Laugh out loud. Jeudy has been pressing because of it too. All the success he had at Alabama, and fans are already calling him a bust when they aren't playing to his strengths. Bama X, you're exactly right. If I'm here and Carl's here, and I know John's in the background saying, don't call Drew Lock a bust in year two. Anybody down there in Alabama that's saying Jerry Jeudy's a bust is so wrong. Let's be honest. This football team is a bust right now, and Jerry Jeudy just happens to be on it.
Right. If he would have been, let's say he and CeeDee Lamb were reversed.
Oh, dirty.
I'm just going to say it. If he's with the Cowboys, he's being very successful with the Cowboys. Just because they have a more dynamic offense that has a quarterback that's more established and knows what he's doing and can throw to the open guy. And so, I mean, it's just part of the problem of you're going through the growing pains of a young offense, the growing pains of a new offensive coordinator, and obviously in a tough division, in a tough year. So there's a lot of things that are playing into a lot of his struggles so far this year. I expect him to bounce back. I expect him to eventually have one of those breakout games where he just goes nuts and the Broncos figure out how to better play him. I'm not too worried about him right now. He's the least of my worries when it comes to the Broncos.
Me too. Jerry Jeudy's going to figure it out, and the offense has to figure it out. So as we wrap up our show, Deshaun coming in here with the final super chat of the evening, and you guys have absolutely crushed building the Broncos tonight. Fangio's a great defensive mind. He needs to be a part of the offensive game plan week to week. He should be helping the offense out more. He needs to be in more offensive meetings to better help the offense. Deshaun, this is something I completely agree with you about. I want Vic Fangio, and I know we're running over just a little bit, and I'm just going to say it. Vic Fangio needs to take a step back. He needs to be the head coach of this football team. He's the defensive coordinator right now. Ed Donatel is being severely underutilized. As angry as I am about Philip Lindsay not being able to get targeted in the passing game, I'm even more angry that Vic Fangio won't trust his BFF of 30-some years and Ed Donatel to call the plays that they all know they're going to call anyway. Vic needs to be in that offensive meeting room, and I completely agree with you, Deshaun. It would make this team a better football team and absolutely show some unity from the head coach.
All right. Well, Luke, any last second thoughts here before we get out of here? I've loved even going over, man. This is great. We could go all night.
Yeah. Oh, we could go all night. Time always flies. I was super pumped to be on the show tonight. Thank you so much for the invite. And obviously, congratulations to Nick and his wife. But no, Broncos country, just stay safe. Take care of each other. I know these are crazy times with, the next week coming up and big day coming up and the trade deadline coming up and stuff like that. So let's just be good to each other on social media. Be good to each other. Hit us up for any questions and constantly talk Broncos with us. I get so many messages, and I know you do, Carl, and John does too. And I don't care the day or time of night. Message me. Let's talk football. I'm so humbled to be a part of this show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, man. Love having you on here. Always love the energy. And it's just great talking football, man. Like I said, you and I, we know we could go all night. But for John's sake, for Chad's sake, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for joining us here with Building the Broncos. You can find us on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, Luke at Luke Patterson, LP, and of course at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Make sure you're checking out all the podcasts, not just this one here. All of the guys are great. Always love listening to, of course, Mile High Insiders on, is it Saturday or Friday?
Saturday nights, baby. We're the last show before games. You know that. Don't act like you know. You've been on my show.
I know. Yeah. For some reason, I just spaced it there for a second. But again, appreciate y'all joining us. Make sure wherever you're listening to this podcast, like, share, subscribe, all those things for us. We really, really appreciate it. It helps us get this out there to more and more people. It's always fun walking down the street wearing my Building the Broncos hat. Somebody goes, "Oh, I love that show." And I'm like, yes, there we go. Somebody sent it to them. They listened to it. It's great.
Do you sign
we
it for
appreciate any support.
Do you sign it for him? Sign it for him.
Of course, man.
All right, there you go. Send them to Carl. We appreciate you guys so much. He's Carl Dumler. I'm Luke Patterson. John on the ones and twos saying always believe in that Mile High magic.
Go Broncos.